You're listening to an African Elements top news story for April 13th, 2025. Please visit our website at africanelements.org for more daily news. GA Wrongful Conviction Law. Stinchcomb, SB244 HB533. By Darius Spearman, African Elements. Georgia has finally taken a significant step to address the deep wounds left by wrongful convictions. A new law aims to create a fair and standardized way to compensate folks who lost years of their lives behind bars for crimes they didn't commit. This change tackles systemic injustices that have plagued our community for far too long. Before this law, Georgia was one of only 11 states lacking a formal process for compensating the exonerated. The old system was arbitrary, relying on individual legislative efforts that often hit political roadblocks. The need for this reform is stark, especially when you look at who is most affected. The Georgia Innocence Project, a crucial advocacy group, has helped free 15 clients, the majority of whom are Black men. Their tireless work highlights a pattern many in our community know all too well. This new legislation, combining elements of Senate Bill 244 and House Bill 533, thankfully moves away from the inconsistent previous methods. It establishes a dedicated administrative process, offering a more structured path toward compensation for those grievously wronged by the justice system. The story of Mario Stinchcomb painfully illustrates why this new law is so vital. Mr. Stinchcomb, a Black man, was wrongly convicted of murder back in 2002. He spent 18 agonizing years in prison before finally being exonerated in 2021. After nearly 2 decades stolen from him, the state of Georgia initially compensated him with a mere $25. That amount is an insult, adding another layer of injustice to his ordeal. Under Georgia's new wrongful conviction compensation law, however, Mr. Stinchcomb's situation could dramatically change. Based on the standardized formula, his potential compensation could reach around $1.4 million. This calculation includes $75,000 for each year of his 18-year incarceration. It might also include an additional $25,000 per year if any of that time was spent on death row. His case powerfully underscores the disparity between the past system's failures and the potential for meaningful redress offered by the new legislation, consequently providing hope for others in similar situations. The new system, established through Senate Bill 244 and House Bill 533, fundamentally changes how Georgia handles compensation claims. It replaces the old, unpredictable method dependent on individual legislative actions with a standardized administrative process. Now, claims will be decided by administrative law judges, ALJs, within the Office of Administrative Hearings. This shift aims to provide a more consistent and less politically influenced pathway for exonerees seeking justice. To qualify, exonerees must prove their innocence by a preponderance of evidence. This legal standard means showing that it's more likely than not, over 50% probability, that their claim of innocence is true. It focuses on the quality of the evidence presented. Importantly, this is a lower burden of proof than the beyond a reasonable doubt standard used in criminal trials. Administrative law judges often use this standard in specialized hearings, focusing on fact-finding within specific legal contexts rather than the broader scope of traditional courts. The new law provides clear guidelines for compensation. Exonerated individuals are entitled to $75,000 for each year they were incarcerated. This standardized amount replaces the unpredictable nature of past compensation efforts. Furthermore, for those who spent time on death row before being exonerated, there's an additional $25,000 for each year under that sentence. The law also includes provisions for attorney fee reimbursement, acknowledging the costs involved in fighting for exoneration. To ensure timely resolution, the law sets specific deadlines. Prosecutors wishing to appeal a compensation decision must file within 30 days, and that appeal must be resolved within another 30 days. Additionally, any money received from related civil lawsuits must be deducted from the state compensation payout, preventing double recovery for the same harm. The journey of this legislation wasn't straightforward. The final law emerged from combining 2 separate bills, SB244 and HB533. Interestingly, SB244 initially focused on a different issue: reimbursing attorney fees for defendants in cases where prosecutors were disqualified, such as potentially applying to Donald Trump's Georgia election interference case. This original focus sparked considerable debate. Later, the language from HB533, which specifically addressed wrongful conviction compensation, was incorporated into SB244. This merger caused some principles clashes during committee discussions, reflecting differing legislative priorities. Despite these hurdles, the bill ultimately passed, thanks to supporters like Repro Katie Dempsey, R. Rome, and advocacy groups pushing for reform. Concerns were still raised by critics about potential fiscal and procedural impacts, particularly on smaller counties. Nonetheless, the passage represents a victory for organizations like the Georgia Innocence Project and the many individuals, predominantly black men, they represent. Georgia's new wrongful conviction compensation law marks a crucial turning point. It moves away from an inadequate and arbitrary system toward one that promises standardized procedures and meaningful financial redress for exonerees. While the legislative process had its complexities, the outcome provides a vital mechanism for addressing profound injustices. Stories like Mario Stinchcomb's highlight the human cost of wrongful convictions and the importance of laws like this in acknowledging the state's responsibility. Ultimately, this reform offers a measure of hope and recognition for those who have suffered immense harm. Copyright African Elements.